Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. For your next listen, make sure you check out Locked On SMU. Yes, we have SMU now on the Locked On Network, which honestly, after the season they had last year, long overdue. And the new host of Locked On SMU, Grayson Singleton, is nice enough to join us. Grayson, how are you?
What's going on, fellas? How we doing?
Doing well, man.
I'm great.
Grayson's, yeah, he's been on about 3 weeks, and the shows are already looking great and doing really well. And Grayson, first things first about SMU. They caught Kenton and I a little unprepared last year with just how good they were. The 11-1 regular season, ACC championship game appearance. They got to the college football playoff. They snuck under everybody's radar last year. The secret is out, though, and they're going to have that bullseye on their backs this coming season. How do you think that changes the mentality from RHETT LASHLEE and company?
Well, the coach didn't make it any better going after the SEC at ACC kickoff, so that target just got even bigger. But their mindset is, and Kevin Jennings, the quarterback, talked about this at Media Day, they're on a revenge tour. They're not just sitting there with a bullseye on their back for the nation to just shoot at them. They're trying to go back because in their mind, they have unfinished business. They lost the ACC championship game, even though they were within a 56-yard field goal of taking it to overtime. And then they get mollywopped at Happy Valley in Penn State in the first round of the college football playoff. So they are taking those two losses really, really hard. And they did so. But now over the offseason, they've developed the mentality that, everybody's coming for us because they want to put us back down where in the dirt where we've been for the last 3 decades. Nobody wants this upstart team to continue to be the team that everybody talks about, the national media darling and whatever. But they also have an attacker's mindset too, because in their eyes, we still have a lot more that we can accomplish. And they believe that they have the team and they've got the staff and they've got all the schematics and everything like that to where they can accomplish even more than what they did last year, winning 11 games.
I want to talk about how the feeling is outside of the facility, right? I get it. Inside the facility, humble, hungry, all those things. But let's just be very frank about this thing. Post-death penalty, the best football team in the Dallas Metroplex area that was wearing that powder blue was the Duncanville Panthers, right? So now you're looking at you're looking at a very different situation where you're coming off back-to-back 11-win seasons, back-to-back conference championship appearances, and an appearance in the first ever college football playoff that was expanded beyond the 4 teams. So what is the feeling like around the fan base and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Ecstatic. It's absolutely ecstatic because DFW has been waiting for a prime college football team for the longest time. And you could say, well, Baylor's there. Well, Baylor's in Waco. That's on the outskirts. TCU is not – it's just not that college that can encapsulate and galvanize the entirety of DFW. SMU is that, though. SMU is not very far off from downtown Dallas. It just is a better reflection in terms of a football program of DFW. So in one vein, Dallas has been waiting for exactly this. And the recent changes in college football and the way that you can use your resources to attract players and whatnot, it's almost been the perfect storm that has allowed SMU to rise from the dead in the last couple of years. You mentioned Duncanville. One of the reasons why SMU is on this ascent is because they're getting these recruits like a Duncanville Panther, Zachary Turner, who they beat out Oklahoma and Alex, your Miami Hurricanes, for a couple of weeks ago. So it's things like that that is priming SMU for this ascent that they're on. They needed to hop into a bigger conference. They got that. They needed to be able to use the resources that we all know SMU has. That is now allowed. So when you pair that with the coaching mastermind that is RHETT LASHLEE, they've been developing guys, and now all of a sudden they're getting recruiting classes that we never thought were possible with SMU. They didn't sign a 4-star up until 2021 since God knows whenever. So all of those things being married together has resulted in what we're seeing now, and it just makes it even better that they're in the DFW Metroplex because that is a top 6 market in the country that has been starving for college football power.
Absolutely. And so let's build upon something you said there. Coaching mastermind. Because I love me some RHETT LASHLEE. I love me some RHETT LASHLEE. He's intense. He goes after whoever he feels like going after, when he feels like going after him. But more important than all that, he wins football games. Are you or the fan base at all concerned that, hey, we're going to struggle to keep this guy? Because, again, he's shown now the last 2 seasons, 22 wins, conference championship appearances, doing this while jumping up a level from group of 5 to power 4. Is there at all concern like, hey, we're not going to be able to keep him for long? Or is this a situation where it seems like Lashlee's happy, we're happy? It wouldn't, we're not worried at all about him leaving because we could take care of whatever he needs here.
There's a couple of things that go into that because number one, here's the more important thing going into this season. If you want to just isolate it to now, they kept both their coordinators. Casey Woods and Scott Simmons didn't go anywhere, which usually after a team pops like SMU did, you'll start to see those coaching staffs be picked off by bigger schools. So that's point number one. That is not a question, to answer your original question, that I think has been broached enough, because it's just somewhere that we just haven't gone yet. But give it another double-digit year, give it another double-digit win year, give it another college football playoff berth. You look at all the programs around the country whose coaches are on the hot seats. Oklahoma and Brent Venables, they've got to win this year. Billy Napier could find himself right back on the hot seat like he was last year. What's going to go on with Lincoln Riley at USC if they fall short of expectations? So there are programs that could be making coaching changes, but I think this one change in college football works in SMU's favor. The fact that you now have to pay $15-20 million for a roster kind of handicaps you when it comes to paying buyouts for these coaches. So I think we're going to be seeing less big ticket coaches fired because it's going to be so much more financially difficult to do so. That could work in SMU's favor in terms of keeping Lashlee, because you're not going to have another school that's at least as many schools that are going to be paying a buyout and then have to give RHETT LASHLEE an exponential raise to leave Dallas.
Well, I absolutely love what you said there. And I know a certain fan base may be disgusted by hearing teams don't want to do big ticket buyouts because their team is desperate to maintain some wins and some coaches there. Yeah. Not going to point any fingers. One more question, and then I'll hand it over to Dono here. In terms of, how Locked On SMU got started, we know about the viral tweet and all that and how that kind of played into things. But what is a big goal that you have for the show where you can say, if I have achieved this, if I have bought this, be it a tangible metric, be it something that's just like, I just do this for the fan base, what is it for you that you will quantify as, if I can bring this to Locked On SMU, I've made this show a success?
The other point to that as well, we talked about the viral tweet, is that I'm actually a DFW kid. So I grew up in DFW, went to college at Oklahoma State, and I've been in the state of Oklahoma ever since. But I think measuring success would be, do I put out a product that galvanizes my hometown and my city of DFW as a representative of the city? So, I mean, you can obviously, we want to have high numbers and whatnot. And, there's ways that you have to tweak certain things and just figure out how you're going to fit into the lives of those people, right? But, man, if I can just be somebody who's talking about DFW's team, and that's the relationship that the symbiotic relationship that you have between media and the team, because the team's success and lack thereof can affect that in positive or negative ways. So, man, if they're successful and that I can just create successful, entertaining, informative content, man, that's success right there, because that would just be me putting out for where I'm from.
That's well said. We're joined here by Grayson Singleton, who's the new host of Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, Grayson, when I wonder what's it going to take for SMU to build on their success from last year, part of that question you've already answered when you talk about not only RHETT LASHLEE being back, but both coordinators being back. Kevin Jennings, another year and a full season for him at quarterback. I think it's going to be important, but there are other important players SMU is going to have to replace. Like I was looking at, some of the losses from last year. Last season, the Mustangs had 17 players that were either all ACC or honorable mention all ACC. Out of those 17, 11 of them are gone. So tell me, in your eyes, some maybe under the radar players who are going to be taking on bigger roles that fans should watch out for this year.
Well, it's an astute point you made that Kevin Jennings is now in his first season as the unquestioned starter, because remember, he took over after the BYU game last year for Preston Stone, who's now at Northwestern. But I think the list starts with Derek McFall. He's a rising sophomore, redshirted last year, and he's a running back that's going to be tasked with replacing Brashard Smith, who was one of the best running backs in the ACC last year, got drafted in the 7th round by the Kansas City Chiefs. And all reports out of there is that they're pretty excited about him. So that backfield, I think, is going to be the first thing to watch is, does McFall emerge as the clear number one? Do they work? How do they work in a guy like a TJ Harden who comes over from UCLA, a Chris Johnson who you're familiar with, Dono, who comes over from Miami? So how do they deploy those 3 running backs? The other thing that you're having to watch for is SMU lost both of its linebackers from last year, Colby Wilson and Ahmad Walker. There's the name. Colby Wilson and Ahmad Walker are no longer there. They were the leaders and the captains of that defense. Now, Alex Kilgore, who was further down the depth chart on SMU's defense, he's going to ascend to a starter. They also bring in from East Carolina transfer linebacker Zakai Barker, who was a really good player in the American Conference. Again, SMU familiarity there with them in the former conference. So those are guys they're going to have to rely on. But really the leader of that defense, you could imagine, is going to be the safety Isaiah WAKOBIA. He's a projected first-team All-ACC guy at safety. He's going to be, I think, the heart and soul leader. He was there at ACC Media Day as well, part of the SMU contingent. So those are the names right off rip that you're going to have to get familiar with. Here's another name that SMU fans are already familiar with that I think the country should, and that's RJ Maryland, the tight end. They signed him out of South Lake Carroll as a wide receiver when he was coming out of high school. He's now a tight end who missed the back half of last year with a knee injury. So having him back, he looks good. His recovery's been good, and he's looked good so far in the spring and summer workouts. That can be a guy who could be a factor in the all-ACC conversations at tight end, and that could really elevate the ceiling for SMU this year.
By the way, I'm glad you brought up RJ because, like, the Miami connections are never ending with SMU. Like he's the son of Russell Maryland, a former all-time Miami great.
Oh, that's
so it's
right.
like,
Yes,
yeah.
he is.
So it's like half of their roster. It's like, wait, that guy? Oh my gosh. So this is awesome stuff here from Grayson Singleton. Want to make sure you check out, Locked On SMU. The show is surging, and I want to keep showing them some love. Make sure you check out Locked On SMU, available free wherever you get your pods, and make sure you follow Grayson at Gray_Singleton2 on X. Grayson, thank you so much for spending some time, and we'll be hitting you up a lot throughout the year.
Much love, fellas. Peace, man. Appreciate you guys.
Good stuff. And when we come back, Kenton Gibbs is going to sit down with College Football Playoff Executive Director Rich Clark. We'll get to the bottom of all these ACC shenanigans in the CFP. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC.